and welcome to Deanne Arts Learn to Draw Lesson 2. The topic of today's lesson will be symmetry and asymmetry. What I want you to do before we get started is to gather your supplies. You'll need your art pencils, a white vinyl eraser, a ruler, some lightweight, inexpensive drawing paper, and a permanent marker. Gather your supplies, put me on pause while you're doing that, and then come on back and we'll begin our lesson. All right, so if you scroll down the page to the lesson plan, you'll see Figure 1. We're going to take a look at Figure 1, which shows a number of reflective shapes. On one side, we have an arrow. On the opposite side of the page, we have another arrow pointing in the opposite direction. The ovals reflect each other. The stars reflect each other. So really what we have is a figure that's representing the definition of symmetry, which is a mirror image. If we folded our paper in half, we would see that what happens on one side of the paper. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to take a piece of white paper, 8 by 10, and we're going to fold it down the center in landscape position. You get a nice fold and open it up. And as you can see from mark your center lightly with your pencil. I'm going to use the marker so you can see to determine with the naked eye. So as I set up a drawing, the center line is going to be my point of reference. Some tools in our toolbox. What I'm going to have you do, and I'm also going to do, is create a random design on the left side of the folded paper. The more complex your design is, the harder it's going to be. And unless you start to learn to do this, it's going to be a big hindrance on the other side. So you might want to keep it simple. Now let's change this picture. And I'm just quickly take a look at Figure 2. Put a little design on here. Looking at Figure 2, would you say that's symmetrical? Circle or not? Another circle. All right. Well, that's easy to determine. That's not random shape because we have different things happening in different places. Step is going to lots of times to create an asymmetrical image is a lot more interesting to the eye than a symmetrical one. In order to help you get into that later, you want to make some marks on the other side of your paper, setting up and take a few measurements, creating an interesting composition. So first, I'm going to measure for now how far our eye tells us right away this is not the center of that circle. So that's easy from the center line. And when I measure it, I get 4 3/4 inches out. So I'll bring this over to the center and mark off 4 3/4. Then I want to measure how far down the center of the circle is from the top of the page, and I get about 1/2 inch. So I will check over here on this side, make sure it's 1/2 inch down, and that's correct. Very good. Now that we've finished that, take a look at your drawing, and if it doesn't look perfect to you, very good. You're not going to attain perfection. Perfection is an ideal, but very few ever get there. But you're going to find as you continue to practice and use this technique that you will begin to see that your abilities are developing and you're getting better and better at what you draw. All right, we're going to take a look at figure number 5 now, which is the cat. And we're going to use the same technique that we used on the previous random drawing, but we're going to fold our paper vertically in half. And then we're going to come back and fold it horizontally in half so that we can lightly draw some lines down the center and give ourselves a cross in the middle. Now that helps us to see a little bit more where we're going to position things as we begin to draw. Now if we want to see where our eyes are going to start, you can tell they're right on the line. But where on the line? Well, it's where we need our ruler. If you pick the farthest right corner and you measure from that corner to the center line, this time I'm using centimeters, and I've got about 2 3/4 centimeters. So I want to make sure I have the same thing on the other side, and I can put a dot right where I'm going to begin the corner of the eye. Then I want to measure to see how long my eye is. So from the dot I just put down to the far corner, I'm going to measure, put another dot, and do the same thing on this side. Now I have a starting point where I'm going to start and finish the top of my eye. That gives me some reference. The next thing I want to find out is how far over is the left corner of the eye. I have to measure it not only horizontally, but I need to measure it vertically. And with the two measurements, I can put a dot in the corner, and it shows me from here where I need to curve down to create that eye. Then I want to measure down to the bottom over here and across to see how long this is, and put my dot there. I can now draw this line, and then I can curve it up to create the rest of the eye. Now, we also, in our last lesson, learned about negative space. So you can take a look at the space from the line to the eye and look at the shape of it. You want to make sure you're creating that shape when you draw. And the same thing when you go to put your eyeball inside the socket. You look at your negative space right here, and it helps you to see where to put that eye. As you're drawing your eye, you'll notice there's a little bit of space between the outside and the eyeball. And down the bottom, it almost touches, but not quite. And then look at your negative space here. So draw that eyeball using your negative space and try to create those shapes. And then after you've done that, the same thing with the pupil inside. Look at your negative space around it and create that negative space as you're drawing your pupil. You're going to work your way through the cat, measuring from the center for each feature. You want to measure horizontally and vertically to make sure it's in the right place. Measure down from your center line, or across from your sides, or down from the top, depending on where your part is so that you're working on. And I want you to try to create your symmetrical cat. And then when you're done, flip it over, correct your errors, any that you can see, and then flip it back. And then we'll move on. Okay, now that you've finished your cat, we're going to see how well we did. I want you to take a marker, a black or some other dark marker, and go around and trace the lines in your cat drawing. When you finish that, you're going to take your cat and fold it in half and press down and look at your drawing. You should be able to see the lines of the other side showing through. Now you can't see it in too well here on camera, but as I look at my cat, I see that there's a line going through here that you probably can't see that shows that my ear on the other side is not completely symmetrical. And if I look over here, my face is not completely symmetrical either. There's places where I'm off by a little bit. That's good to go back and take a look at because it just helps you to check to see how well you are doing. That's a good self-check. All right, very good. Now we're going to do that exercise again using figure 6. Figure 6, the lion, is actually an example of something called near symmetry. That happens when things are symmetrical but not exactly the same. There are variations, but it doesn't change the balance, and it's a little bit more interesting. So if we look at Mr. Lion here, his eyes are symmetrical, his nose is symmetrical, his face shape is symmetrical, and his ears are symmetrical, and his mouth. But if you look at his mane, there are lots of differences, especially if we look down at the bottom. The lines are going in different directions. We've got different lengths, different amounts of spaces. I'm not sure anybody would want to do this drawing if they had to measure out exactly every line on the mane. That would drive you crazy. So what I'm going to have you do is, the same as in the last couple of drawings, you're going to fold your paper vertically, fold it horizontally, make yourself some lines that you can see so that you can tell how you're going to set him up. There's your center point. And then begin to measure. And I might, maybe I might want to start with the nose or the mouth. And I would measure down from my center point, right on the horizontal vertical axis, and see how far down my mouth, the beginning of my mouth is. And then on the other side, I want to measure how far the corner goes. Put a mark there, and then see how far out it goes. So you're going to do all your measurements, set it up symmetrically, and then once you've drawn your lion head, go back in and just have some fun with your ruler and do the mane. All right, when you're done, use your black marker to go all the way around your lines, and then again fold it in half and check out your symmetry and see how well you did. Let's take a look at figure number 7. We have this little puffy-faced dog. Now this time, we're not going to use our ruler except to make straight lines, but no measuring. I want you to use your eye and draw your dog and see how close you get. Now if you take a look at this dog, you can tell right away this circle is smaller than this circle, so it's going to throw the symmetry off. But it's fun to try, and look at the eyebrow. You can tell this one is a lot further from the center line than that one. But this is the reason for this exercise is just to begin to develop your eye and see how well you are seeing what's on the page. So when you're drawing your dog, make it more symmetrical than this one. We're trying to achieve symmetry. This is an example for you to take a look at to see how easy it is to make a mistake. But I want you to try your best to see if you can make it symmetrical. Now take a look at figure 8. Figure 8 is symmetrical also, but it's something a little bit different than what we've been doing. And you see this every time you look at the face cards in a deck of cards. It's called inverted symmetry. And it takes the image, and instead of flipping it from the left or the right hand side, it flips it from the top and the bottom and mirrors it that way. You could do a really interesting drawing based on this, but it's going to take a little bit of thought. It's not only do you have to flip from side to side, you have to flip top and bottom. I just wanted you to be aware of it. Now the last formal exercise we're going to do is to take a look at figure 9. And figure 9 is another lion. He's a little simpler. We've got more of his body in there. And what I want you to do with this is to work the lion just like you did all your other examples. It's just more practice for you. And he's also an example of near symmetry, because if you look at him, he's pretty much balanced out everywhere. But over on this side, you have a tail. Now, if he was a perfectly symmetrical lion, he would have two tails, which would just be kind of unusual. So sometimes when you're doing your drawing, you're going to have to plan for near symmetry. So I want you to take a few minutes and do a drawing of the lion. And then when you're done, the last thing we're going to do is to do a free form drawing like we did in the beginning, with your page folded. Draw on the left hand side any image that you like, and then just practice drawing the other half of the image, the mirror image, on the right hand side. Anytime during the week that you want to go back and repeat these lessons, or even over the course of a few weeks, go ahead and keep practicing. You can upload any of them that you like, and I will give you a comment, and probably others will encourage you. But the more you practice, the better you're going to get. So if you can work on a couple of drawings a day even along the way, just take a few minutes and work on some symmetry. And we'll see you in the next lesson. Bye.